Welcome everybody to our BNI Talks webinar. My name is Steve Tenuso, your host, and with me today is Dennis Charles, and we are talking about how to crush every 2023 BNI goal, every one. So if we don't cover one, throw it in there. We'll crush that one too. I feel confident about that. You know, we've been inviting coaches on the past few weeks. At the end of last year, we had Mike Savage on, we had Tom Fleming and Tiffany Kellogg on talking about different ways to focus on your goals. A lot of them were for business. Some of them were for BNI, but this is one that is really specific to your BNI membership, your BNI leadership teams, all of that success. We want to talk about that for this year. So I'm going to turn it over to Dennis.
Thank you so much, Steve. Yeah, and thanks everyone for joining us today. It's a snowy day up here in Massachusetts. I'm sure across the country you've got various degrees of sunshine and all sorts of marvelous weather. But yeah, as Steve said, what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how I'm going to talk about a very specific framework in which you can set your goals, and more importantly, you can track your goals and you can adjust your behaviors to make sure that you're getting the results that you want. Before we head there, I'm going to hand back to Steve and he can introduce me briefly.
So I've known Dennis for quite some time now. He's been a member for 12 years, so I'm guessing that I've known Dennis for 12 years. And during that time, I've seen him in his own chapter as a leader. As you can see there, he's held every leadership team position except secretary-treasurer, something we have in common. He wrote that book, Word of Mouth, with an introduction by Dr. Ivan Misner himself. Can we still get that on Amazon?
It's still on Amazon. It's still there.
He's been a coach for 31 years, in business for 21 years, BNI member for 12 years, as we said, and BNI Mass Support Team for 11 years. And some guy hired him to be an area director in 2016 in Boston, and there he remains. So Dennis, welcome as always. And you've been on many times on this webinar, but it's been a while since your last appearance. So happy to start off the year with you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and as you mentioned, I just checked out over the holidays, checked out Tiffany Kellogg's, Tom Fleming's, and Mike Savage's videos. And I got a BNI, I think, is it BNI USA YouTube channel, Steve?
Correct, yes.
Go there, check those videos out because there's some amazing things. Mike talks about some entrepreneurship ideas that are really going to be synergistic with what we're offering today. And Tiffany and Tom are talking about some really great strategies for setting up your giving plan, which is a really great way for you to increase your business and your referral partner's business. Before we go there, I'd love to hear what you want from today's presentation, because I've set up this presentation, but it may not be exactly what you want. So when it comes to goal setting, what do you want to learn from today's presentation? And please put it into the chat, because today we're going to have some fun, if you're okay with that. We're going to make it highly interactive. We're going to have some questions and answers at the end, and there's also going to be some resources. So do stick around till the end of the webinar. So Steve, is there a theme that you're seeing in the chat about what people are looking for from today?
How to keep members more engaged and more excited. Let's see, group motivation tips. Someone says I'm brand new and I want to be set up for success.
Love that.
How to monitor your goals effectively. Quantifying and measuring. Switch from 2-time mentality to 10 times mentality. I like that one. So lots of really good goals in here. How to get to want people to join. Oh, I like that.
Oh yeah. Okay. So we'll aim to cover as many of those things as we can over the next half an hour or so. Yeah. Okay. So start off with, we promised some fun. Let's have some fun. Let's get highly interactive. In the chat bar, just going to be a truth or myth. I'm going to put up 3 screens. I'm going to ask you, is the statement, do you think it's truth or do you think it's myth? All right. So here is statement number 1. The best way to achieve a goal is to write it down.
We've got a lot of truths coming in here. No one says false. Oh, there's a false. Everyone else is true. There's a false there. Mostly truths.
Mostly truths. Well, I'm going to say this is actually a myth, because just because you write it down, it doesn't mean you're going to get the result from it, right? It's an excellent first step. Mm-hmm. And studies show that people that write their goals down and write their goals down in a very specific way got a much better chance of achieving them. But really, it's that first step in putting together an action plan and taking action. So I'm actually going to say that this one is a bit of a myth. So
yeah, isn't it true, Dennis, like with like New Year's resolutions, we say we're going to do something, but just because we say we're going to do it doesn't mean it happens.
Absolutely. Yep. Okay, so let's see how we do with the next one. Moving on. Goals are only useful if you achieve them 100% of the time.
We got mostly falses coming in here this time.
Okay.
True sprinkled in, but almost all falses.
So the wisdom of the crowd has this one right. Yeah, this is definitely a myth. While it's great to be hitting your goals or even exceeding your goals, goals serve a lot of purposes. They can be aligning a team around a specific cause. They can be inspiring a group. They can be informing your day-to-day actions and what you need to be doing, your priorities. So even if you don't hit your goal, it's better to have a goal and get very close there. If you have an income goal for your chapter of $4 million, but you hit $3,950,000, you're $50,000 short, I'm probably going to say that's really a success in the grand scheme of things. So the purpose of the goal is not always necessarily to hit them. We'll get into some of that a little bit later. All right, good job, everybody. And the final one. Most people forget about their goals by January 20th.
I think that's pretty generous.
January 2nd, you're saying.
No, at least the 5th. But yeah, we're getting lots of trues, a couple of falses in there, but
yeah. This is a little bit of a trick one because I did a lot of research around this, and it really does depend upon which study you look at. Some say 15th of January, some say 1st of February. The consensus, though, is that most people, once they get beyond January, do forget about their goals because they don't really have any mechanism for following up on them. So this date gets thrown around about January the 20th. I was at the gym yesterday and could barely work out because it was packed solid. It was people who had these New Year's resolutions to get in and get in shape. I know that come February the 5th, that the gym's going to be back to normal. A lot of those folks are not going to go in. And some of these big box gyms, I was talking to the janitor of one of them, that the gym shall remain nameless, but they do a lot of online marketing. And he said that 70% of members of the gym, because a lot of them sign up online, 70% of members of the gym never set foot within the gym in that year.
Wow.
People have these amazing goals for what they want to do, health goals, business goals, lifestyle goals, and they just don't have that mechanism for following up. But fortunately, we have BNI, and BNI is really, it's set up to support you as an individual to achieve your goals and for the chapter to achieve its goals. So we'll get into some of that. Some of you may have heard of this gentleman here. His name is Andy Grove. He comes from Hungary. He came over at the age of 20, did not speak English. And in one of his first jobs, he got together with a couple of guys and they put together a little company you may have heard of called Intel. And Andy went from really just a poor immigrant to becoming the CEO of the company. In fact, he was named Time Magazine Person of the Year in 1997 for his services to the burgeoning internet industry back then, because they said, without the Intel, without them constantly pushing and stretching the limits of what was going on with regard to chips and microchips, that the internet really wouldn't have come into around when it did. It'd probably taken a lot longer. So how did he do that? Well, he set up this really simple system, and he called it OKRs. And OKRs, we'll get into it, really simple. They're objectives. They're like the big idea. They're your what. And then there's key results. And these are the how. And these are the things that, as you write them down, you can measure them. And you definitely want to put dates on them. You definitely want to put numbers on them. So the what it doesn't necessarily have to have a number on, but definitely the how is the way that you're going to measure your goals. And which companies use this OKR system? You may have heard of one or two of these. Spotify, Netflix, Uber, Amazon, Google, all right, Google basically founded themselves on using this OKR system and used Andy Grove as their coach to grow. So Andy Grove went in and said to Larry Page, the Google founder, said, "What do you want for your business?" And he said, "I want it to be a $10 billion business." And this is when they're working out of their garage. And he said, 10 million or 10 billion? Did I hear you right? He said, "No, we want to be a $10 billion business." And he said, "Well, to get a market cap of $10 billion, you're going to really need to scale and grow quickly and put it." And he goes, no, we don't want a market cap. The market cap's going to be 100 billion. We want to do 10 billion in sales per year. And at that point, they haven't sold a thing. So they set up this system of OKRs, objectives and key results, and it focused them on growing in a way that was aligned throughout the company, and also energized their workforce as they brought them on. Somebody that uses these, as you can see that gentleman down there, Mr. Bono, and he gets mentioned in a book which talks all about this story here, Measure What Matters, and that's going to be in the resources at the end. It's an excellent book talking about how Intel grew, but how Amazon and particularly Google used OKRs in order to grow so substantially. But it was nice to hear from, I listened to the audio book, Mr. Bono here talking about his humility when it came to OKRs, because he's not known to be the most humble man on the planet, but he's put together this one campaign in 2004, and he said it was kind of like a little scattershot all over the place, and they weren't sure whether they were getting results. They were getting a lot of money in, and as soon as he started using OKRs and working alongside folks from Google, folks such as Bill Gates, they really focused on the impact they were making, and realized that there were things that they could do with trying to eradicate malaria and a lot of diseases, and also getting folks in Africa on board, and went from, I think, 3 million people being engaged to over 10 million people engaged in like a 2-year span. So it's, using goals can really inspire and align groups. So objective is your what? You want to make it big and aspirational. So I would love for you to share in the chat, what is a goal that you would have for your BNI chapter over the next 12 months? And again, this doesn't need to have numbers. Maybe it's just to grow. Maybe it's to make an impact. Maybe it's to pass more business.
Let's see, 100 visitors, double the members. So another double the size of the group. More visitors, more members. Wow. Specifically to growth they're talking about. Here comes pass more referrals. That's a good thing. Yeah. Increase members. It seems like people want to grow the group, and then, that will lead to more referrals and more money.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense, right? Yeah. Why we come to BNI is to make more money, and hopefully we have a lot of fun while we're doing it, and we make some great relationships, and we stick around. I was talking to a 25-year member this morning at the chapter I went to visit over in Boston in the financial district, and he's just as enthused about BNI as he was when he joined. And we made the theme goals, and he stood up and said, "I hit every single one of my 2022 goals thanks to the referrals I received in this BNI group." And it was just an amazing story to hear from somebody that had been around a while, and it was really thankful for what he had in BNI. So your objectives, your big whats, are measured by your key results. And this is when we get really granular. So the next couple of slides, just going to show some examples of what this may mean for a typical BNI chapter. So the objective may be to grow to be one of the most successful chapters in the region, all right? Again, there's not many, this isn't very specific, it's not time related, but it may be like aspirational, because who doesn't want to be on one of the most successful chapters in the region? Mm-hmm. I love hearing when members say, "Hey, we went up to be we're the third biggest chapter in the region. We passed the most business." It's that friendly competition. It's that aspirational piece. But the KRs, the key results, grow by 5 net new members by June 30th, 2023. Specific, measurable. Schedule a visitor day with 30 guests attending on April the 3rd, 2023. Again, something very specific, something that we can look at. Did we achieve it or didn't we? And increase visitor conversion from 20% to 40% by March 30th, 2023. This could be something that the leadership team could put together and work with members on executing. Any questions on that, Steve?
I'm just looking at these, and the way that these are worded is so important, right? They all do fall under SMART goals, but like that second one that says schedule a visitors day with 30 guests attending on April 3rd, 2023. So when you kind of a lot of this stuff, and even talking about when you were talking about Google and those other companies, they all started with that vision. And I think you have to have that vision to hit that goal. Because if you just say, let's just have a visitors day, you don't know who's going to show up.
Right. Yep. And when you say, hey, we'll have a visitor day, let's see who comes, generally, you get maybe 4 or 5 people wandering into the room. If you say we're going to have a visitor day with 50 guests, and again, you fail and you only have 45, well, it's probably more successful than the 4 or 5 people.
Right, right.
Another aspirational goal, maybe be a chapter that no one ever wants to leave once they join. How would you go about creating that culture within your chapter? One thing you could do is have a director or chapter success coach come in and do a one-to-one training in the month of February, talking about one-to-ones are the way that you're going to generate more business for yourself and therefore for the chapter over the next 12 months. But do we do one-to-ones in a way that is going to generate the most business and be the most profitable? Potentially not. But the whole chapter doing that and working together is probably going to change that culture to be that chapter that no one wants to leave. Increase one-to-ones, so doing more of those one-to-ones from 43 per month, which has been measured. And again, one of the beauties of BNI, we measure all this stuff to 90 per month by April 30th, 2023. This could be something that the leadership team could talk about. When we're talking about reviews, could be talking with members that maybe aren't having the success that they want. How are you doing the one-to-ones? And getting that one-to-one up. And recognition is one of the things I always loved about BNI. As a solo entrepreneur myself, just being around and sometimes getting some recognition for some of the efforts and the hard work put in. I rarely get it apart from receiving checks from clients, but a third KR maybe recognizing renewing members with a ceremony and a thank you from other members on the first meeting of the month, the first 6 months of 2023. I've seen this done in some chapters, and it almost brought a tear to my eyes just seeing other someone renews and people share why they're thankful that person's renewed and what they've brought to their business. So it can be very, very powerful. Mm-hmm. Final BNI OKR, again, OKR being objectives and key results example, increase member engagement so that our meetings are both fun and productive. Engagement being absolutely huge in BNI, and it's just something I hear going to visit chapters. We want more engagement. I wish our members were a little more engaged. Well, what particular activities could we put in order to make that happen? Well, you could set a goal to have each chapter member in the green in the Power of One report by May 31st, 2023. And I saw a Power of One report yesterday, and there's a chapter not too far away from me in Concord called BNI Junction. We're not very far from making that happen because they've really put their attention on there. Their membership has grown by, I think, about 60% over the past 12 months, and their thank you for business is up because they're focusing on that. So congratulations to BNI Junction.
Nice.
You could hold a competition for most visitors brought during the month of February. It doesn't have to be February, it could be April. But again, as Steve said, once it's written down, it's in place, it's specific, then you can begin to organize around, okay, so what do we need to do in order to make that happen? What are the prizes? How are we going to measure the score? And how are we going to celebrate the wins? And another way, KR number 3 would be give out 5 member prizes at the first meeting of each month for performance increase in January through June 2023. So not necessarily the people that are doing the best, but maybe somebody that wasn't necessarily as engaged as before, but you see that engagement coming up. Maybe they only did 2 one-to-ones in the previous 6 months, and they went up to 15 one-to-ones. Let's recognize that. Let's celebrate that, because we put attention on that, and we have enough individuals doing that within groups, then groups are going to grow and be successful chapters.
I think, Dennis, when you talk about member engagement and wanting to get people involved in the chapter, you really do have to make it fun and make it something that they want to do. Because if you say, well, we need better member engagement, so we're going to tell them they need to do this, they need to do that. Nobody wants to get involved in a group like that, right? They want something that they want to feel like they're a part of and that they're contributing to and they're enjoying while they're there.
Yep. I visited a chapter in Worcester right before the holidays, and I thought I'll get there really early. I got there at 6:35,
Mhm.
So there were 15 members there before me. They're an in-person chapter, and I'm like, this is they come because it's fun, and they come because they have great relationships and they're fully
Nice.
engaged. Yeah,
That's great.
so taking that down to the individual level, like you as a BNI member, what are some things that goals that you could be setting in order to make 2023 a really great year for you? So one objective may be increase the size of your business to become an industry leader in my town. So generally talk to any business owner, they say, I want to grow. But this one is a little bit more special. You start sharing with others, I want to be an industry leader in my town. I want to be known for being for excellence. Well, how might you go about that? One thing you could do is schedule 25 sales meetings between January 15th and June 30th, 2023. Again, that starts you taking the action of what do I need to schedule these meetings? Well, I need to get more referrals. Well, how am I going to get more referrals? Maybe I need to be doing more one-to-ones, reaching out, talking to past clients, etc. Key result number 2, increase client retention from 65% to 85% by June 30th, 2023. Again, this is something that's going to help your business grow, not so much by addition, but by not having that leaky bucket syndrome where a lot of clients kind of fall by the wayside because you're focused on marketing and the newer ones coming in rather than taking care of them. So if you're able to get that retention up from 65 to 85%, would have a huge impact on your business. And the third thing may be hire an office assistant, probably because you're doing a lot of the work yourself that you don't need to be doing, and you can be doing the things like getting out, talking to prospective clients, prospective referral partners, going out and going to trade shows, those types of things. So by hiring that office assistant, having them come in, they can take over some of the day-to-day tasks that are going to free you up to do more of that entrepreneurial business owner thing.
You know, Dennis, we've seen a lot of people who have gotten a ton of business from BNI, got so busy that they left the chapter because they couldn't do both. And then when business slowed down, they came back to the chapter.
Yeah.
So I love the idea of hiring an assistant or someone to, make sure that you're able to work on your business while people are, helping you out doing the smaller stuff.
Yeah, I have a tradesperson in my chapter, and I said, business seems to be great. He said, the one thing I did was I hired Ashley, and Ashley was the difference maker. She takes care of all the things that I was dropping the ball on, and his business was up by 40% in the previous year. So, yep, it's a great thing to do. But goals don't necessarily need to be about your own personal growth. Maybe they may be about helping others. So an objective could potentially be making a difference locally by giving back to your community. How would you go about that? Well, you could develop 5 new relationships with nonprofits by May 31st, 2023. And with the nonprofit initiatives we have in BNI, that shouldn't be that difficult a stretch for a key result. Another thing you could potentially do is to set up some scholarships, donate $5,000 in scholarships, maybe to a local high school by June 30th, 2023. And another thing I've seen companies and organizations do is paying employees to work for one day a month at a charity of their choice. Again, that's I think a great way of giving back to the community, and also for your employees to think, wow, I'm not just being sent somewhere, but I have the choice. I have the choice to go somewhere, and it should increase that employee engagement.
I like the giver's gain mindset there.
What was that?
As I said, I like the giver's gain mindset there.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, final one is one I hear from a lot of business owners when I sit down and talk to them. How are you doing? Oh, busy. How do you see the next year? Oh, busy. What would you like? Probably to work less. I'd say majority of business owners I talk to want to work less, make a bit more money, and spend times with those that they care about. Well, how could they go about that? Well, the first thing to do would be to write down what that may look like. Again, where we started with the presentation, reducing the number of weekly hours worked from 65 to 50 by December 31st, 2023. Again, very specific, measurable, and that's a huge chunk of time. That's 15 hours. That's a couple of hours per day that you're going to get back for your personal life if you hit that goal. Take 15 full days vacation during the year of 2023. Worked with a client 5 years ago now who I met at a BNI training, and She took her first vacation in 7 years with her son and went down to Orlando. And the two of them just spent 5 days there, but she came back so proud that she didn't pick up the phone one time. She had her office assistant take care of everything, and the business was still there. Really like useful in your work-life balance. And another one could potentially be to hire a business coach or like a business strategist by February 1st, 2023. It could be a great way to focus your mindset, you go get some goals in place and then put together an action plan. Steve, I know you hired a business coach in BNI a while back. You want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I originally started in BNI as working for a printing company, and then started a copywriting business. And I did not know what to do. I had never started my own business before. And so I thought, well, let me start with a business coach who knew a few things, and started working with Nancy Cantor, who's been on this webinar before. And she really helped me figure out how to get started, and also to set up a business plan. They actually write out a business plan, which I didn't even think I had to do. I just figured, all right, I'm going to start this business. Let's see what happens. So she really got me focused, and we went through certain exercises and things like we did the E-Myth, and kind of worked out like, which areas of the business that I'd be working, which is like you're pretty much everything when you're starting out on your own, making sure that you've got all of those little slots filled, like the billing department, and the work and the scheduling and all that other stuff. So it really helped me out. I think, I've always talked about the importance of coaching. And I think that's why I have so many coaches come on this webinar, is that I believe in it, because I know you can go so far ahead, like years ahead of where you would be if you were just doing everything on your own and figuring everything out by yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. And if you don't have a coach in your chapter, a couple of things you could do. You could invite coaches to come visit, or you could look to see if there's potentially another coach in another chapter. I did a cursory search this morning. I think I found over 350 coaches across the country. And of course, looking at it from a chapter perspective, a lot of you do have a coach. You have a chapter success coach, somebody that has some great BNI knowledge that you can maybe sit down with for an hour or so and work out your chapter goals. And as Steve says, some mechanisms in order to take those goals from kind of dreams into actions, into realities.
And one of the things, by the way, that's great about coaching is that you have someone who's kind of your accountability partner, because when you're a solopreneur and you're doing everything on your own, you don't really have that. And so it's nice to have someone to kind of call you out on some things that you're kind of passing off as accomplished goals that really aren't, and give you a little bit of a reality check. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, definitely. A coach can bring many things. It can be a sounding board, can be somebody to bounce new ideas off of, can be somebody to hold you accountable, or to put your ideas into something tangible and feasible in order to get the results. I met with a leadership team, a client team that been working with for about 5 years now, yesterday, and they went past the $2 million mark for the first time. And just the pride that they had on their faces, the company owners, it was just wonderful to see. And so, as a coach, I said, all right, what next? What are we doing this year? And they were like, 2.5 or 3. And I said, well, why not 3? Right? Because when we get to 2.5, we'll be happy. So if you would like those examples, because, again, they're only examples, and they're definitely not prescriptions. Real simple thing to do is to hit that. It's a QR code, right? Just get your phone, do the scanning thing, and you should be able to pop your name in there, and you'll get access to the OKR examples for the chapter, the individual OKR examples, and an OKR worksheet. And I also put a link in there to that book, John Doerr, Measure What Matters, because I think this concept of setting goals is something that resonates for you either as an individual or you as a leadership team member. It's definitely worth getting into. It's fascinating reading, hearing about how Google got started. And there's a pizza company in there called Zoom, not the Zoom we're on right now, but they're called Zoom, an automated pizza company, and just fascinating to see how they were kind of floundering around till they started setting really specific goals. Nearly at the end here. So OKRs are one way of doing your goals, but I would say that having goals writing down goals in any way, whether you put them into BNI Connect, whether you write them down, one thing you want to do is share them with others. Had a friend of mine was a BNI president, and he was in a chapter that was constantly bouncing between about 16 and 19 members. And he said, when I take over as president, we're going to go to 30 if it kills me. And I said, okay, Scott. And he worked with his director, actually a friend of yours, Steve, Debbie Chase was his director at the time. And Debbie said, well, what are the plans to get there? And they worked on scheduling visitor days, but also working with the spheres and just creating a culture of inviting and bringing. And he said he was going to wear a black tie until they hit 30. And they got to July of his leadership, and they hit 30 members. And he said, right, I'm going to take, and he got to take his black tie off. So goals can really inspire and lead, but whatever goals that you use, whether they're OKRs or other types of goals, here are the things that you're going to get from it. You're going to get focusing on doing the important work rather than the busy work. It can be, you can be getting emails and pings and texts from all sorts of people, and the temptation is to respond to them, but are you focusing on doing the work that's going to get you the outcome that you say you want for your business? Alignment. You always work as part of a team, because even if you're by yourself, you've got suppliers, you've got customers, clients, your referral partners, and the more that you can talk about your goals and share your goals, the more that you can get aligned and they can help you and work together. Putting it out into the world is a commitment, as Scott did with saying we're going to hit 30 members, and every single week you start off the meeting by saying, hey, we're going to 30 members, and that they got there. Just by sharing it with others is going to make that commitment. Once it's written down, you can begin to track your goals, you can begin to track your progress, and don't get stuck to it. If you've set a goal for 5 million as a chapter, and halfway through the year you're at 250,000, I would say, let's not, by sticking to that 500, by that 5 million, you're going to get everybody, you're not going to get them excited. It's going to be the opposite. You're going to get them feeling a little depressed that there's no way we're going to get there. Maybe you can change that goal. Say, hey, maybe we can go to 1.5 million or 1 million and make the end of the year a success. So by tracking, you get to measure the activity that you take. We can also update and change your goal as you go through. And the final thing is that stretching piece. Goals can help you go beyond the limits of what you believe is true. And I think goals are just an excellent way when you sit down as a group and say, what do we want for this year? Do we think we can grow by 3 new members? And then somebody says, I think we can do 5. And somebody says, maybe 7. Well, how about 10? And then they say, all right, well, let's focus on 10. Just, you're all in a BNI chapter. How would your chapter be with 10 new members come January 2024? It'd be nice to have 2 more, but if you had 10 more new members by January 2024, what would be different? You'd probably be having more fun, making more money, developing more relationships, and just enjoying your time more and hitting your personal goals. So with that, Steve, I'm just going to say, you know what? Goals are just dreams. Until they're written down, goals are just dreams. So put together an action plan. Spend some time writing your goals down, making them very specific, time-bound, and very, very focused. Share your goals with your referral partners. There used to be this program in BNI years ago called Fast Track, run by a couple of women out of Florida. I think their company was called Del Fuego. Yeah. But one of the exercises there was for individuals to sit down and say how much they wanted from BNI throughout the year and how many referrals they need to get there. And it was a really sobering thing, because a lot of people were just like, well, I want to make $60,000. Well, how many referrals do I need? 120. It's like, whoa, now I need 2.5 referrals a week. But once they shared that with the group, people would say, oh, you know what, maybe there's ways in which we can make that happen. So we did this with an entire chapter, and the entire chapter just spent the meeting sharing what their goal was, how many referrals they needed, and why that was their goal. And the chapter that year doubled their thank you for closed business. So I would say share your goals with your referral partners, share them with your group, share them with your families. Don't hold them into yourself, because others, are there to help you. And the final thing is schedule some time to continue to assess your progress. Whether it's in your calendar here, or your calendar here, or your calendar on your computer, whatever works best for you. But definitely assess your progress as you're going along. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the scheduled part. However, we possibly have a question or two, Steve.
Yeah, there are a couple of questions. For example, a lot of people had been asking earlier in the chat and here in Q&A, how to increase referrals to and from chapter members. I think this is one of the biggest frustrations in some chapters, because everyone seems like they want to get it done, but it just isn't happening at the rate that they want it to.
Yeah. I had this question this morning from a new member, and I said, can I tell you a secret? I said, there's only 2 things you need to do in BNI. And his eyes kind of lit up because I thought there's like all these things I need to do. I said, one, you just need to be referable. And what does that mean? It just means showing up on time, showing up dressed nicely, being prepared. How you do one thing is probably how you're going to do another thing. So showing up to the meeting, coming in, and again, doing all the activity that's going to get you to green on the Power of One report. That's going to make you eminently more referable. I think you're 4 times more likely to be referred if you're in the green than you are if you're in the gray, because people perceive that you're there and you're in the game. So that's one piece, like be referable. But the second piece is train your members to bring you your ideal referral. And everything that you do within BNI should be to train your members to bring that ideal referral to you. First thing you need to know is who's your ideal referral, right? Is it somebody that's a business owner, is it a particular type of consumer that drives a particular car? Get really clear about that. And then just spend the whole time, your weekly presentation, your featured presentation, but definitely your one-to-ones, and writing it down on your game sheet and your goals and your bio. What's your ideal client? How can your fellow members identify them, and what can they then say to them once they've identified them in order to facilitate that introduction? So that's it. Just be referable and constantly train other members to bring you referrals, and you will have success in BNI. I guarantee it.
All right. Excellent. Ramon asks, has anyone been able to bring in 10 new members to their BNI chapter within a year?
All right, Steve, what were you? Were you my area director?
At some point, yeah, I had a few titles back then, but yes,
yeah.
Yes.
I got to say, in the year, we're going back in ancient history now, probably 2011 to 2012. Yeah. There was a chapter here in Massachusetts, in Wayland, called Commerce Connection. And I think you started the chapter, right, Steve?
Yeah, that was one that I launched that didn't launch very large, but it just was a steady growth right out of the gate. So it did well.
Yeah. So I came into the chapter where I think I was member number 18. So it was 17 members. I think you launched it around 25. And there was one of the founder members there, a gentleman by the name of Tim Daly, went to a training, and he saw up on the board the top 5 chapters, the median 5 chapters, and the bottom 5 chapters. And he saw Commerce Connection at the bottom of the chapter, and he said, this isn't happening. This is not happening. We need a plan to grow. We're going to make it happen. And for the next year and a half, the chapter just focused on inviting, growing, and just having events. They brought in some people that were excellent inviters, but it was exciting to be in. And we never hit 60 members, but we got up to 59 within 18 months of being at 17. So not only did we add 10 members, we added over 40 members in an 18-month period. It's really, it's a trip to be on when it's happening. A lot of the founding members were like, how big are we going to get? This is getting crazy. I'm like, let's see where it goes. The chapter now, is still regularly in the top 3 of chapters on the Power of One report in Massachusetts. Just has a really great culture, really supportive culture, but it has an inviting culture, and the expectation is that members come. So yeah, I've definitely seen that growth. And I'm sure you've got stories of similar growth, Steve.
Well, I was hoping I would see this name pop up, and it's Shirley Town. If you don't know, Shirley Town is an executive director and a member in her chapter of 146 people. Yes, 146. And she, in 1 year, brought in 27 members to add to that large total. That is so impressive. But I will tell you, as your chapter grows, and Dennis, you were talking about the kind of the momentum chapters have, it does get easier. People want to ask more people. to come just to see what it's like in a meeting that's, growing and on the rise. And just the buzz in the room for those in-person meetings can be really, really a game changer. People kind of make up their minds as soon as they walk through the door sometimes.
Yeah, and I'm sure in Shirley's chapter that energy is palpable. I remember inducting 6 members in a random week one time, and it's just like, it's fun, it's exciting, and it can happen. The only thing that's really going to stop you is just having that limiting belief that you can't do it. So if you do have members that have that limiting belief, maybe you want to sit down with them, sit down with your chapter success coach and have a conversation and put together a plan, put together some goals, because as Shirley's shown, as Steve's shown, you can do it.
Yeah, it's really kind of an amazing thing to be part of. I was in a chapter that was very small when it started, and it was that way for many, many years. And then we just decided one day, actually, here's a good goal that we had, Dennis. Let's follow the rules that BNI gives us and the guidelines to do everything right for 6 months and just see what happens. And we did it. And within 6 months, we had grown, our referrals were up, attendance was better, all of that stuff. So we went from being one of those kind of rogue rebel chapters to one that went on to win a bunch of founders awards, and to this day is very successful.
Yeah, to this day, I think they're still the largest chapter in the region, right? Because they simply follow the recipe. It's not that difficult. Yeah, love it.
All right, let's see. Any other questions? Let's see what I've got. We've got a couple in here. All right. I'm gonna have to open this up. Here we go. Let's see. How do we create more accountability and involvement from group members? How do we make members bring more visitors in our group? Visitors are brought in by 30% of the members.
Yeah. Well, let's unpack the question a little bit, because you probably can't make anybody do anything, right? But you can potentially inspire them to want to bring people to the meeting. So, yeah, you see that in a lot of chapters, right? There's a small minority of people are responsible for a lot of the inviting. So things you can do, you can definitely put a focus on it. You can set some goals. I've seen competitions work really well. And the type of competitions that tend to work exceptionally well are groups. When you split the chapter up into small groups of 4 or 5 teams, and then give them an outline and a plan, and maybe this group's going to focus on inviting for this particular sphere. This group's going to focus on a different sphere. It could be one way of doing that. It brings in the collaborative and the competitive, which a lot of BNI members bring. That could be one way of doing it. Recognition is another way. If somebody hasn't sponsored a visitor for 3 years, and then they sponsor 2 within 3 months, you definitely want to be recognizing them, giving them a certificate, having them get up to the front of the room, giving them some recognition in front of the group, having them share how they went from 0 to sponsoring 2 new members. But we definitely can't make them do that. We can definitely inspire them to get there.
That sounds great. Yeah, I think that's definitely the best approach, is really to make it like a team effort, right? So I love the breaking out into teams. Claudia says, we have a real challenge getting members to see the power of one as a success tool. Nothing we have said or done is moving members out of the gray and red. No one seems to put a lot of stock in it, much care, and perhaps sees it as too much work. So let me just jump in here and say, if you go to our BNI Team USA YouTube channel, you'll see Joe Poirier did an hour with us on the power of one. That was amazing. So Claudia, definitely look up that presentation. It was amazing. And I think you get a lot of ideas out of that to kind of inspire your group a little bit.
Yeah. And I'm also going to say, Claudia, if you want to reach out to me, I can connect you with Joe. And I'm speaking for my friend Joe. I know he's on the webinar. He's a very giving person, and he loves helping and teaching others with the power. I'm sure he would sit down for a half an hour Zoom call with you, just to give you 1 or 2 ideas that can maybe help those members that don't necessarily see the value of really just doing the activity that they signed up for, and doing the activity that are going to help their fellow members grow their business.
Excellent. Let's see. If someone is looking for chapter, I guess that's looking for the power of one report.
Talk to your chapter success coach or director. They will be able to get that to you.
Yeah, I mean, they're typically published somewhere on BNI Business Builder, but yes, definitely, ask for help on that one if you can't find it yourself. Okay, I believe that is all of the questions that we've got here. I didn't check the chat. Is there anything else in the chat? Let's see. No, I think that is all of our questions for now, unless anyone has a last minute question they want to throw in for Dennis about your chapter.
It's been fun, Steve. Hopefully we made it fun. We made it interactive. We had some great questions there at the end. There are other resources there. If you can't get your little scanny thing to work, just send me an email. I'll be happy to send a link over. DennisCharles@bni.com.
Great. Next week, Dennis. Our good pal Jenny Buss is back, and Jenny is talking about recognition. She's calling this one kind of a big deal. Recognition makes a difference. I'm not sure if kind of a big deal she's referring to recognition or herself. Is she on here? She's probably going to get me for that. But she's been talking to me about how the brain reacts when people are recognized, and she's going to do some kind of a deep dive. This one looks really cool. So you got that in your email that was sent out this week. So please register for that one, and we'll see you next week. Dennis, any final words before we sign off?
I'm going to say, if you want any help with your goals, reach out to your chapter success coach. If there's anything unclear, either from, my English accent or just the way things were written, and you want to just reach out for a chat, feel free to email me on the email address, DennisCharles@bni.com. Would love to talk. So I love talking with BNI members about their goals and how they can help their chapters. And I get to say it, Steve, give yourselves one CEU for attending today's webinar. I've been wanting to
I'll end it then. All right, we'll end on that note. Thanks everybody for being on today. Thanks again, Dennis. I'm sure we'll see you again on the webinar. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.